Okay, I'm so excited for our next speaker and our next speaker because both of them have the distinction of being Teachers of the Year, both in big states, important states, and nationally. And it's going to be a really amazing conversation, I think. Now for a first-hand account from Autumn Rivera, a sixth grade science teacher at Glenwood Springs Middle School in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. As I said, she just won Colorado's 2022 Teacher of the Year Award, is now up for the National Teacher of the Year Award. Autumn, congratulations, a really big welcome to you. I don't know if you know that after our discussion, I have Johanna Hayes, representative from Connecticut, who actually won Teacher of the Year in her state, and then she did win Teacher of the Year nationally, and so maybe this is kind of a good omen, or maybe we're screwing it all up, I don't know, but congratulations to you. I'm excited about this because I'd love to hear about how you approach your obsession, which is students and teaching, and how you approach that, which is interesting. I'm also interested as you kind of look at it, because again, using today as a show and tell, what are the things that you think you've stumbled across and you've done that other teachers that are trying to find a way might think about doing as well?
Well, first, Steve, thank you so much for having me. And I would like to correct the two governors. The correct answer is frozen Samoas if we're going to talk about the best way to have a Girl Scout cookie. And I think one of my big passions about being an educator, I've been in education for 17 years, and I really want to find a way to have my students have a voice now. So many times we have our students think about the future, whether it's the next grade level or it's the next class when they get to high school or college. And we never really allow our students to have a chance to make a change now in the present. And so one thing I really focus my teaching on is allowing students to advocate and empower their voices to make a change for what's happening, what they see right now. Because when students are able to have that empowerment right now, then they're better prepared for the future. And so it's been really an awesome situation. My students were actually able to rally around saving a local lake. A couple years ago, they decided they wanted to help a land trust purchase this lake. And so they did a big sale and we sold t-shirts, and they were able to raise over $1,000 to put towards this. And their advocacy was really powerful. And just last October, actually, Governor Polis announced it to be the 43rd state park in Colorado. And so just having those students be able to have that voice is really powerful. And I just encourage all teachers to continue to do that.
Well, look, I don't want to let that go, because I think what you just said just has an incredible, what you're doing is helping to introduce purpose, right? Introduce purpose into the classroom and hearing what people, these young people want their purpose to be. I don't think I'm speaking out of line if I say that a lot of teachers in the past, and maybe we've kind of over-typified in certain, sometimes teachers feel like they're asked to become the parents, they're asked to become the disciplinarians, they're asked to carry the load for so many different dimensions that, the space to find what you just have figured out how to get the chemistry right on purpose is really hard to do when kids don't feel secure or they have a lot of other issues going on. So I guess my question to you is, what's the secret pattern that you've put in place that we can understand about? You just talked about it so easily. I think some teachers find themselves in very different circumstances.
Yeah, it is a lot. Teaching is a lot right now, especially in the last year, I think has been the hardest year and an unexpected hard year for all of us as teachers. 2020 and 2021, we sort of knew that it was going to be hard and we prepared ourselves and we were ready to move forward. However, at the beginning of this year, it's been way more difficult than I've ever experienced. And I see the same with my coworkers. But I think the most important thing to do right now is to pause and just get to know your students, get to know their interests, really understand who they are and put students first. Current national finalist, Kurt Russell, with me, always talks about the importance of putting students first, and students are the centerpiece. And I just echo that message, because I think students are so important, and understanding where they are, seeing their interests, not only just helps you have a better relationship and allows those students to feel safe, but then as I move forward in deciding where my classroom is going to go, I'm able to shape my instruction around what they're interested in. And for example, with the Sweetwater Lake, students were really interested in that. And so I was able to have that ability and support from my administration to move forward and support my students. But if I hadn't taken the moment to get to know my students and built an inclusive environment where all students feel like they belong and they matter, it wouldn't have happened. And so just really encouraging teachers and just community members to rally around your community around your schools to support all of your students and really get to know them and celebrate who they are.
You know, are there other things that you're experimenting with on that front around the lake? I mean, it reminds me of a case I knew where Salesforce Corporation was working in partnership with some schools and, you know, teaching young people to code. And what they were doing with the coding, interestingly, was measuring microplastics in local lakes and local, you know, waterways and whatever. And the results were shocking, actually. And these young people were very much in the middle of it, and they were, you know, using science to basically tell a story, and then feeling connected to real world things. It was incredibly powerful for me to see that. But as we kind of talk about, you know, some of these innovations that are out there, you know, we talked to some, you know, with Governor Sununu about summer camp grants, or look at what folks are, you know, supporting mental health aid, or, you know, creating optional days at school. Are there other, I don't want to call them innovations, but adjuncts to that we should be considering to complete the education experience for those students that have gone through the last 2 years?
Yeah, I really think it's important to reach out to the community and really help bridge that gap between the community and the schools. I know I have been really awesome and able to work with Denver Museum of Nature and Science in Denver, Colorado, and also with STEM is My Future in Grand Junction, Colorado. Those two have been amazing informal education programs that are able to support our students and really work with our teachers to help provide other situations. I think having that environment is really important. I also think so many times we hear this discussion on learning loss and how we need to support our students in the loss that they learned. But I challenge back that our students did not lose any learning. They shifted what they learned. Like, yes, maybe they didn't get the science that I wanted them to get over the course of the last 2 years. But you know what they did get? They learned how to learn online. They learned how to learn in person, sometimes both. They learned how to protect themselves. I think they all have graduate degrees in technology at this point. And so really celebrating that. And I really challenge us to use the wording learning shift, because our students have shifted in what they've learned. They haven't lost anything. And I think celebrating what our students have done and using that to move forward is really going to help us move into this next step in education.
Right. Well, we may want to go a notch more on that, because we've got a question for you from the audience that touches on that. But from Autumn Rivera, I'm sorry, from Paige Rander. Paige? Autumn, sorry.
Hi, my name is Paige Rander, and I'm a former trustee in Clear Creek ISD in Lake City, Texas, outside of Houston. My question today is for the educators. I'd like to know what has been your experience with learning loss with our students. Is it real? And if so, what can parents do to be responsible partners in helping educators overcome this challenge?
Paige, great question, and I'd love you to go a notch further on that, because you've already touched on a bit.
Yeah, I do think really recognizing what our students went through during our lockdown and what that was like. I know as a middle school teacher, I watched some of my students already in middle school. There's the random gap in maturity levels that we all can remember fondly when we were in middle school. However, during the pandemic, where students were not around each other, that ability to sort of learn with your peers through just maturity kind of stopped. And so we now have an even bigger gap between that. And so I think finding ways to just support our students and support our teachers. I love parents. I want them to come in. I want them to help. I think, again, celebrating what your students have done, what your children have done, talking about those different methodologies and allowing our students to take a breath. I think they've been through a lot, but they're really resilient, and just thinking what they've learned through this last couple years and celebrating that and finding ways to move forward, making sure students are talking about it, processing. I think sometimes our students haven't really had a chance to process what's happened in the last few years, so allowing that to happen. And then taking these different gems that we've seen. Like, I know my students now are able to communicate their learning through technology in ways they never have before, and it's such an exciting thing to see. And having students be able to celebrate that and finding different gems that we have from before and finding different gems that we have now, and sort of looking how we're going to move forward, and having parent involvement in that is amazing. I think that support, going into schools, helping out in any way that you can. I know a lot of our schools right now are struggling with different guest teachers, and so having come in and help cover a teacher's class so they can do different things and help support their students. But through that teamwork is how we're going to move forward.
Well, Autumn Rivera, 2022 Colorado Teacher of the Year, and she's a finalist for the National Teacher of the Year. good luck with that, and just whatever happens with that, I just really appreciate your thoughts, very thoughtful ideas on education today. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you'll come back. Let me know, get my email address, send me, somehow team, let me know if she wins, okay? If she doesn't win,
Awesome.
We'll all celebrate anyway.
It's great either way. Just to be a finalist is amazing, and thank you so much for bringing this out there, and just encourage people to listen to the teachers. We're the experts. We know we're in the classroom, so keep listening to the teachers.
Thank you so much.